This lecture has been made available to you courtesy of the American Numismatic Society.
Okay, first of all, happy Valentine's Day. It's fantastic to spend it with you. And actually here, Dr. Jesse Kraft was so eager to spend a Valentine's Day with us that he didn't even, he was out with his family, he didn't even go home, just to be here with us today for the Valentine's Day long table. So anyway, we have a lot of coins to share and medals to share with you. So I think we will begin very soon. Hi Liberty, hi Bruce, everybody. So please, of course, feel free to interrupt us whenever you want. We really, actually, I am personally looking forward to see Jesse's stuff.
We're all looking forward to Lucia's stuff. A little bit of a warning, it does get a little bit risque.
Yes,
so just
at least
please nobody get offended.
Yes, exactly. I just want to thank you for reminding this because I already forgot. So yes, unfortunately, as you will see, the Romans and the Greeks were who they were, and so yeah. Okay, so I'll begin with the presentation. And so, as I said, we have some slides, but most of the time we'll just present coins and medals. So, love and coins. Okay. So I will begin because this will be pretty much the fil rouge of today with a quote from the Symposium of Plato, where it says the dual nature. The Symposium is one of the dialogues of Plato, of the philosopher Plato, on love, and he says the dual nature of Eros follows from the dual nature of Aphrodite, of love, as there is an Aphrodite Urania, so celestial, and an Aphrodite Pandemos, popular. And so there is Eros, so passion, celestial Eros, and on the contrary, popular, low level, you know, for everybody, because of course the Greeks were a little bit elitist, let's say, for everybody. And so the general characteristic of Eros Pandemos, with which I will begin, is that it is directed to the body rather than the soul, to the unscrupulous satisfaction of lust. In contrast, Eros Uranios seeks only such people who are noble and nearly mature, both in mind and body. So there is in the tradition, a Greek tradition, really, this. Unfortunately, our Greek curator is not here, but he gave me the nice, of course, task of showing you this beautiful coin. It's a coin, yes. The camera for the coin. Okay, there. Okay, so I simply don't see it. Okay, here you see, this is a stater, the 5th century BC, from Thasos, and you can clearly see here a satire, the satire where these creatures were following Dionysus around and were known for their insatiable lust. As you can imagine, exactly, the satire was, by definition, the idea of the quintessential Eros Pandemos. And here, of course, is seen with a nymph. So very interesting, the fact that, of course, they cannot be gods. Gods cannot really just be devoted to lust. This is only for the satire and the nymphs, who are the divinities who live, of course, very interesting, outside of the cities and live close, of course, to water sources, springs. So in some way they have this relationship with what is under the soil, no? In some way also the passions. And so here is this representation, and I'll just go on with the rest of the PowerPoint. Okay, share here and slideshow. Current slide, yes. So perhaps, and I will not spend too many words on this, the painting that can represent the theme of today is this beautiful painting, one of my favorite ones, by Titian. This one is now in the Borghese Gallery in Rome, and is called Amore Sacro e Amor Profano, which means sacred and celestial, and let's say profane, yes, love. In reality, it's not even profane, means just terrestrial love, because here is, you see that they look very much alike. This one is Aphrodite, celestial Aphrodite. You can see here Cupid, the god of love that is sometimes represented in some traditions as the child of Aphrodite, and is, as you see, playing with this water that looks very dark, that really represents the uncertainty of life in some way. And on the contrary, there is this woman here called Laura Casalotto, who is presented in her bridal dress. This was what look at bridal dress in the 16th century. So in reality here, that's why is Amore Sacro, Amor Profano, there is no pandemos, there is no uncontrollable lust here. There are just two possibilities, the celestial love and the, let's say, love, earthly love. So the love that brings to marriage, and it is exactly what we celebrate on Valentine's Day. Okay, so let's move on. So you see Aphrodite and Eros here, and I just want to show you. This is not going to be too bad for now. Two incredible coins that we have, because this is just a way to celebrate our collection, because there are like 3 examples known to RPC of this. This is a bronze, thank you so much, a bronze drum from Alexandria of Egypt, and here is presented the judgment of Paris. So Paris is judging here these 3 goddesses. I cannot point it. These 3 goddesses here. The 3 goddesses want to know who is the most beautiful one. Of course, you can recognize here Aphrodite. And because why this is Aphrodite? Because of course you have the little Eros here, and Hermes, Mercury, who brought them, and the other 2 are Athena, that you can barely see her helmet, and Hera, Juno. So we know each of them promised something to Paris in order to get the golden apple, so the most beautiful one. Of course, like Athena promised wisdom, Juno, Hera promised great power, but of course Aphrodite promised the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Troy. And you know, because you know what happened afterwards, which one, of course, Paris chose. But again, the power of love here, and really in this case, which led to the destruction of an entire city. Another one, and then I will not shut up as yet, but soon enough. This is another one. I mean, once again, this is one of the 2 specimens known in Roman provincial coinage. So I know it's not in the best conditions, but believe me, this is an enormously rare coin. And this is a beautiful story that I will tell you in 2 seconds. And this is really the quintessential romantic love. There were these two lovers. This is a coin from Abydus, from Septimius Severus. So Hero here, so Leander and Hero fell in love, but they lived on both sides of the Dardanelli Strait, basically. And Leander, which definitely was a very good swimmer, swam every night, here he is, to go to Hero. And Hero would hold a lantern up for him so that he could see where he had to swim to. And once Hero lost her lamp, so could not find the lamp, his blazed lamp, and Leander drowned. And so this is another tragic example of the stories, just so that we have an idea that before we go into some exactly more risky things. So I'll just be, so because I really want to see also Jesse. Here we go. So here you can actually see much better. This is the Judgment of Paris, and here you can see much better. This is the second specimen, but of course we don't have. But here you see better what was actually represented. And St. Valentine's Day, St. Valentine's Day has been associated with lovers, probably by Chaucer, which says St. Valentine's Day when every bird comes there to choose his mate. So this is because of this poet of this English poet of the 14th century. Now, Valentine actually existed, is linked, or better, we're not that sure that the martyr Valentine existed. But anyway, in Rome, there are some catacombs, which are the catacombs of Valentine, which are in the northern part of Rome, close to the Via Flaminia, who are actually open one day a year, and you can imagine very well which one. So if you want to take your wife or your husband, your significant other, to a romantic tour in Rome on February 14, you can take them to the catacombs of Valentine. So Valentine would be, according to the tradition, would be this priest that during the persecution of the Emperor Gallienus, so we are in 260 CE, was marrying all these couples, and because of that, he was martyrized. His body was taken basically from the Roman authorities after he was executed by a matron called Sabinilla, who had a predium, who had a property close to the Via Flaminia, and that's where the catacombs were then built. So here you go, and I love it. This is the skull of St. Valentine. Of course, it's probably not really the one, but anyway, the skull of St. Valentine from the Basilica of Santa Maria in Conveni. Actually, there are several. You can clearly see the skull here. There are, I don't know how many, St. Valentine must have had like 10 arms because, and 5 heads, because there are relics of Valentine all over the world. But anyway, in Rome, we have supposedly the skull. And here you go. So, but I have to tell you, and I'm almost done with this, that Valentine's Day is celebrated on February 14, but February 14 was originally, and this was very important for the Romans, the day of the Lupercalia, as this is represented in this painting by Camassei. What are the Lupercalia? Here you can see from Plutarch, the life of Romulus. In reality, the Lupercalia were a fertility festival dedicated to the lupa, so the she-wolf, of course, the one who nursed the two founders of Rome. And so we're celebrated the noble men in Rome were part, some of the noblest, the most aristocratic men in Rome were part of a collegium, so a group of priests called the Luperci, so the priest of the Lupa. So they would sacrifice goat and a dog. It's very sad, I don't know why, but I don't know why the dog. But anyway, what happened is that exactly, then their forehead would be touched with this bloody knife, and then the stain would be wiped off with wool dipped in milk, and then they had to laugh. Laughing, of course, means to avert the evil. So there is this ritual laugh that's very common. And then this was the best. They would have had to run naked around the pomerium, so the sacred boundaries of Rome, weeping the young married women of Rome with these strings made, whips made out of the skins of the sacrificed animals. So as you see, this was a fertility festival, and that's why, of course, and this is typical in Rome, what happened is that, pagan temples were then turned into churches, pagan holidays were turned into Christian holidays, like, for example, Christmas was actually the festival of Sol Invictus. And that's what happened, with Valentine Day. So in 494, a pope called Gelasius forbade all the Romans to celebrate the Lupercalia, because apparently the Romans kept celebrating the Lupercalia even when the Roman Empire was in theory Christian, and then made it St. Valentine's Day. And so this is why Valentine's Day is actually on February 14, because this was the day of the Lupercalia. So now, since we're talking about fertility rituals, I have to introduce you to this very short part, which is the most quote-unquote indecent, about basically Roman culture. This fresco, which actually has been finally unveiled in last year in Pompeii after 40 years of restoration, comes from the house of the Vetti. The Vetti were these two very powerful freedmen in Pompeii, and they were said to have basically a brothel in their house. And so guarding the brothel was the ithyphallic god Priapus, which is, of course, showing us that his genitalia are worth in silver as much as they weight. So this is the entrance to the house of the Vetti. As you can see, the house of the Vetti was also decorated with clearly explicit scenes, and that's why this has been thought to be, let's say, a brothel, but we are actually not really sure about it. But the Romans, we have some very, very mysterious objects from Rome, which are called the so-called spintrie. Then I have another one. So let's see a moment. Stop sharing, sorry. I want to show you this spintria that we have from our collection. Here you go. Okay. I don't know if you can show yours better. So this spintrie are these tokens, basically. So they were not, of course, coins regularly circulating. They're tokens. And they are characterized by very explicit scenes. And on the other side, as you can see, there are numbers. So, of course, we know now, because some of them have been found in archaeological contexts, and so they were produced mostly at the beginning of the 1st century CE, possibly under Tiberius. And of course, several people, several scholars have disputed basically and discussed what was the function of these. Of course, the first one would be like tokens to be exchanged during, let's say, a visit to a lupanar, which was a prostitute house, because in theory the face of the emperor could not be exchanged in such degraded places. Now, this is, let's say, an older idea, because in reality, as I will show you, we have several other tokens with very explicit representations. Anyway, we know that the spintriae were only produced during the 1st century CE. Clearly, each number is related to a specific position. So the mystery remains. There are very nice publications by Campana about it, but we don't know really. And I will just share this again. Share and slideshow from the current slide. So this is Spintria. And you see that there, for example, Tacitus, who really hates Tiberius, says that it's Tiberius because of his terrible habits that invented all of this, okay? And this is what, because Spintria were actually male prostitutes. I mean, clearly here there's not, this is a man or a woman in this case, but anyway, that was the idea. I want to show you that, for example, we have a representation, look at this, of etiphallic flying genitalia on tokens. For example, this one is another incredible piece of our collection. There are only 3 in the world in existence, and one of these is with us. This probably comes from the Vatican, and this one, I will not go into this, is connected to these celi, where oil producers in the Baetica. So probably this was a token that was circulating within, let's say, the predia, within the property of these celi. I will stop sharing for a second, and then finally you can hear long-suffering Jesse, which has been had to listen to me until now. You are with the camera. God. Oh yeah, yes. Thank you. You can see here. Sorry, okay, here. I hope you can see this. This is made out of lead, of course, a byproduct of the smelting of silver. So of course, because in Spain there were silver mines. And I will also show you this other token, exactly showing you that, that's why the spintriae, it's nice to think that the spintriae were related to lupanari, but the reality is that the Romans really put all of these, like the tokens had very often genitalia showed. So at this point, I will leave finally.
I mean, if you actually want to keep going, because mine is going to be very quick. I'm just not even, I don't have any PowerPoint or anything, so I'm just going to show stuff. So, I mean, if you have more PowerPoint, you're more than welcome to keep going.
But anyway, the second part of this PowerPoint is very is quick too, because they're mostly, I will show you basically, the point that I want to make here is that the Romans had this sort of, exactly like risque themes on tokens, so on unofficial coinage, but their official coinage did not present any of these themes. So it was in some way boring. So like, for example, the first one that I showed you, the one with the nymph and the satyr, that was actually a coin, an official coin from Thasos. So for the Romans, this would have been impossible, okay? So love, Venus, and Eros are only presented in their highest form, and you have a lot of marriage scenes, okay, on the Roman, for example, the Roman imperial coinage, because of course was dynastic, but none of these other stuff, okay? So for example, Venus, since we have these very rare and beautiful auras, I would only to brag a little bit about our fantastic collection. For example, Sulla, which was a dictator, so here we are probably in 84, 84 or 82 BCE, as you see, presents himself, he called himself Epaphroditos, which means under the protection of Aphrodite. But of course, as you can see here, Aphrodite and Eros are not, of course, are not the protectors of any lascivious act, let's put it this way. Eros is actually presented to Aphrodite, the branch of victory. And this is exactly the precise tradition that we will see then adopted by Julius Caesar when he said that the Iuli were related to Iulus, which was the son of Aeneas, who was a son of Aphrodite, of course. So they could not be present themselves as the children of Aphrodite Pandemos. And here you can see, for example, exactly like the sacred nature in some way, because you see the priesthood elements, okay, of the augurs, and you see here the trophies. So Aphrodite is the one and Eros are the one who provide Sulla with victory, okay? And this is really the important element. Actually, the first appearance of Aphrodite on Roman Republican coinage is in the 119 BCE, and she's driving a triumphal chariot. The other one that I want to show you is, for example, yes, this one. This is another beautiful aureus from, this is dedicated, so this is Crispina Augusta. Crispina was the wife of Commodus. And as you can see, you have here represented Venus, and you see Venus with a helmet is Venus Victrix. You have a very similar representation under Augustus. Actually, Augustus is the one, the coinage of Augustus is the one that really represents in some way the model for this. And this representation of Venus Victrix goes on really until basically the 3rd century, the end of the 3rd century, yes, the 3rd century CE. And last thing, and then I'm really basically done, the Romans also loved, because exactly their coinage was sometimes a little bit boring. This is Pudikits again. And okay, so for example, I want to show you this, okay. Once again, this is a very rare coin, and unfortunately it's not that we have always in this case we don't have the best specimen, but believe me, and you can read this, this is an ass dedicated to Sabina Augusta. Now Sabina was really in this case, really the long-suffering wife of Adrian. So Adrian married her because she was the protege of his predecessor, basically, Trajan. But we know that Hadrian was definitely interested in homosexual love. So really, Sabina, we know that, for example, they lived, when he built Villa Adriana, the apartments of Sabina were really completely on the other side of the villa. So anyway, so of course, and probably against her will, Sabina is presented with the virtues of Pudicitia. Here you cannot see so well. I will show you better on the PowerPoint, and I will show you other aurae with Pudicitia. Pudicitia is basically pudor, okay? So is of course chastity, and it's very proper for a matrona. But as we said, I mean, poor Sabina, also because, and I want to show you other one. This is Venus. Let's see other Pudicitia. For example, this is an incredibly beautiful aureus. So let's see if this is the right one. Yes, this is Crispina again. So the wife of Commodus, and you can see here, and here you see beautifully Pudicitia. So the reality is that the Romans on official coinage would celebrate exactly chastity, and then chastity and conventional love, and then they will leave for the tokens to celebrate other aspects of it. Or for example, and that's why I showed you that not so perfect coin of Sabina, because while Adrian, of course, celebrated Sabina for her Pudicitia, on the contrary, we know that he had, and is not known to everybody, the fact that he had this lover, Antino, and he died. Antino died possibly during a sacrifice for Adrian well-being, while swimming in the Nilus. And as many as 150 cities in the empire dedicated coinage to Antino. Of course, Antino was never present on Roman official coinage, because of Roman official coinage, only the wife of Adrian could be present, and in this very specific way. But Antino, and here you can see the coin, this is a drachma from Alexandria, for example, was celebrated as a hero. Sorry for this, look at the way they put really the accession number, it's crazy. But anyway, you can see here that, that Antino is celebrated. You can see that this is still Antino on a horse as a hero. Of course, not on official Roman coinage. This is this is Roman provincial coinage, but was not issued by a Roman mint. And with this, I leave it to you.
All right, so we are going to jump forward many, many centuries. And I really only have two kind of groups of coins and metals that I would like to show. The most obvious sort of numismatic dedication to love for the modern era are, of course, love tokens. So we have a bunch of love tokens that, I mean, I'm just going to quickly go through them. If we can go to the coin camera. I mean, not all of them are necessarily from, you know, a man to a woman or a woman to a man or you know, any sort of love like that. This one is really interesting. It is from Grandpa to Charles. So I'm sure that Grandpa loved Charles. So it is still a love token, November 23rd, 1907. It's on a trade dollar, which is interesting because they hadn't really circulated or weren't really issued for circulation since the 1879. So the fact that it was still around and then issued as a love token in 1907 was pretty intriguing. Love tokens in general, I think that there are possibly some Roman examples of love tokens, but for the modern era, they really started around in the 13th century in England and kind of progressed from there. Here's one simply marked Emma. I don't think Emma Pratt is online right now, unfortunately, but it's really just an intriguing one. It's beautiful, but I'm sure one that she would appreciate. And it was engraved on a United States $50 from 1876. And you can see that with the other elements that unfortunately the pin broke off, but it was used as a brooch for some time.
So basically, people would just go to a shop ask to, or they do that at home?
Usually there would be, trained engravers that would do it. Some of them are rather crude and most likely may have been done at home, if they're, in a less, in an area where there weren't as many trained engravers. This box caught my eye. It's just a whole bunch of love tokens. I'll go through them pretty quickly.
Oh.
Some of them, the monogram gets so intricate that it's a little bit difficult to see exactly what letters they are. This one may even be upside down. Like this one here is rather crude, so. Something like that may have been done at home. This one, actually, the undertype is, we don't know what it is. Maybe a British copper or something along those lines. RL, this is actually on, looks to be from the wreath in 1859, 1 cent piece, which is a 1-year type. Dimes and quarters tended to be the most used pieces, but other coins, as you can see, were also used. It's a 2 cent piece. So again, just going through these really quickly, just to show you kind
They're
of.
fascinating.
Yeah,
really.
they're really interesting.
So these seem to be done, for example, by a professional, probably.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty good engraving of a star. Of a star, especially.
So possibly they were produced in some way, I don't know, in a series, and then people asked to have their names initially.
Yeah. A lot of them. I mean, they're all unique in their own way. I've never seen a series of love tokens or anything like that, or nothing with 2 or more.
That is.
Here's one that is on a U.S. dime that then had a loop added to it. This one's interesting. It has a monogram and then also what appears to be a church. So this could have been engraved during a wedding or for a wedding, and that's the local church where the wedding took place.
Wow.
This one here is probably our rarest undertype or host coin for love token. It's a Nova Oborak copper, which was issued here in New York City in 1787. It was hold, of course, because it was used as a love token. It was just a really, really beautifully ornate H.
Wow.
Yeah. A skilled engraver made that. There's no question about it.
And it was carried, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's not all the love tokens we have. That's all the love tokens I brought out. The second group are marriage medals. And I kind of brought out 3 different types of marriage medals. The first are kind of rulers of different places. This is George III. on one side, and then his wife Charlotte on the other. There were many George III to Charlotte medals created. So I brought out a few just to show you kind of the scope of them. As you can see, both silver and bronze. Get this last one out. And even some of them are a little bit more artistically advanced than others.
Yeah. Wow. I was telling Jesse that for me, for example, when I see these Jugate portraits, I'm always very intrigued because, for example, I don't know if this was, look, when you see Jugate portraits represented, for example, for the first time in the Hellenistic rulers, so you are in the 3rd century before Christ. So basically the woman tends to resemble the man in some way, because it's a way to show that she's part of the power. So the power has to be male. And on the contrary, what is beautiful here is that, at least in this case, the women are represented with their actual features. So that is something that is very interesting for me.
Of course, Great Britain wasn't the only. Here's one from Spain. We have Charles III to Elizabeth Christina. And here they're facing one another because they are, in fact, in love. Well,
They don't
probably
look
not,
except, I mean,
This one is interesting. It has a nice lettered edge to it. Can't quite make it out. Royal families aren't the only individuals that had love medals, or marriage medals, rather. This is one from the late 19th century by Oscar Roti. We actually probably have maybe 8 or 9 of these, both in silver and bronze. Roti was just a master sculptor, and this marriage medal definitely portrays that, his genius.
This is incredibly beautiful.
And all the ones that we have until recently were unengraved, and then we received a really nice donation of medals from William Esposito, and then we finally received one that is engraved. So here's the obverse, and then on the reverse, it actually does have a date, December 17, 1903, with a monogram there.
So they just produced them.
Yeah, these were mass produced. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So then.
So that's a nice, touching example of a marriage medal that was actually issued. Back to the royals. Here's a nice one, Nicholas and from Russia.
So the Tsar.
And the reverse is exceptional. It's a nice big piece. It actually shows the marriage happening. Nice, beautiful medal. And then last but not least, we have one from our own Oliver Hoover, who had a marriage medal produced in 2001 to celebrate his marriage.
Look at that, Alpina and Oliver. That's so neat.
So that's basically all that I brought out. Didn't have anything necessarily scholarly to say about them, just the fact that they exist. They're nice pieces. We have plenty of different marriage medals and other medals related to love, and of course love tokens, but I mean, that's all I have. So just wanted to share some interesting pieces with everyone.
I don't know if you have any question for us. We'll be very happy to answer the questions.
I have a question for Jesse.
Yep.
I was wondering, what is there, or do you think there's any significance to the fact that those love tokens were using coins? I mean, is it just that it's a convenience of having a sort of ready-made pendant available, or why were they not just creating a new object rather
Yeah,
than?
it probably is convenience. I mean, there's lots of them around, especially by the modern period. Of course, the use of coins waxes and wanes with like the medieval period being a little bit less. But so that's why, by the 13th century, you really have love tokens because there's just masses of coins around. And, if you engrave off or, plane off one side then all of a sudden you have a mini canvas. So yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
We've just been informed that Dr. Peter Van Alphen is online. If he has anything to say, we did show some coins from his department.
Just one, unfortunately, but Peter, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, I'm not in the best of health, so I'm not going to show my face at the moment. I enjoyed the presentation and don't really have much to add to it. So well done.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Otherwise, I mean, we'll let you go free and to celebrate your own Valentine's Day. Yeah, we don't want to keep you, right?
That's right.
We would have so much more. I mean, but I thought that yes, that this, or if you want to see again any piece that was particularly interesting for you, that's also a possibility. Oh, I love this. Thank you. Yes, for the lovely presentation.
The lovely presentation.
Okay, so that's okay. So since at this point we don't have any question, so happy Valentine's Day. Please remember the opening of the catacombs of San Valentino in case you are around Rome, or plan your visit to Rome accordingly. And we'll see you next week. I don't know, Ryan, you want to tell them next week what? Oh, yeah. Oh, it's me and Alice, actually. Next week, I forgot. So next week, Dr. Alice Sharpless and I will be presenting the Columbia University excavations at Villa Adriana. And yes, so basically the monetary finds from more than at this point 10 years of excavations in Villa Adriana. So that's so. Please join us for that one, and see you. Have a good weekend. Happy Valentine's Day.